Okay, creativity is great, but something that I see time and time again is, believe it or not, too much creativity and much of it without purpose. So in the next 6 minutes, we're going to take a logo design submitted by one of you, cheeky little cupcakes, and we're going to tidy it up and get it looking super professional. And if you keep everything we're about to cover in mind for your next projects, you are going to instantly level up the quality of your logo designs. So we have a logo for an Asian restaurant, and honestly, this is giving me more Italian vibes with that tash and hat. But we have these hands, we have the spatula, the whisk, we have the hat, the tash, of course, we have this linear outline of the face, and then we have these thick dividers that are causing some weird spacing above the text and then very tight spacing below the text. And don't even get me started on this floral thing attached to the letter R. Yes, a good illustration, but it's just not going to scale well and it's way too much detail. Not to mention we have some different colors. We have black and a slightly bluish off black. And we have some additional detail on the tash with that same kind of almost black but not quite color. And the curves on the tash are a bit janky and definitely need some work too. Okay, so there's a quick look at what isn't working. Now, what are we going to do about it? So first of all, instead of trying to focus on too many different elements, we're going to focus on one. So we're going to get rid of the hands. And we could do something with the spatula and the whisk and cross them, but this doesn't really give me Asian or Italian vibes. So instead, I'm going to focus on the chef hat and the tash. Oh, a little bit of hand there. Let's get rid of that. Now we're going to get rid of this linear face outline. I don't like that. And we're mixing linear styles with solid fills. And we're going to get rid of this additional detail as well. So we're going to make sure this logo design works in black and white first of all. And this is a good standard for any logo design. Oh, a bit of white there. Let's get rid of you. And we're going to lose the dividers as well because all they do is cause issues with the type. And there we go. We've freed up the whole design. And already you can see we've simplified this and made it a lot cleaner. Now we're going to work on the type. Now there's many different fonts we could pick, but I'm going to make a point here. If you use Times New Roman or Arial and you use it well, it's going to be way more effective than using a really fancy font and using it badly. So let's separate the words Asian and restaurant into two text objects. And like I say, I'm going to use Times New Roman so we can focus on the fundamentals of the type rather than just getting crazy and carried away with picking fonts. So we've made this text a bit smaller. We're now going to bump up the tracking, which is the spacing between the letters, and we'll squish that a bit closer. And this is lowercase and this is fine, but we could actually make this all caps as well, which might look quite cool. Now, when it comes to sizing and spacing, what I'm going to do is try and line this up with the left and the right edge. So let's line it up exactly. Or what we can do is we could make it deliberately larger or deliberately smaller. And one thing I would try to personally avoid is having it just ever so slightly smaller or ever so slightly larger. This looks a bit more like a mistake. It looks sloppy. So in summary, either line it up with the lettering above or make it noticeably larger or noticeably smaller. And to nail the spacing between the two words, we can actually use the height of that bottom word as a bit of a guide to dictate the spacing. And let's bump up the tracking on the word Asian as well. We're just going to spread the letters apart a little bit more. Right, now we've got to work on the tash. So let's move this out the way and we're going to draw our own. Of course, there's many ways to draw this, but I'm going to use the pencil tool and just draw a swirly line. And if we press D to apply the default fill and stroke, set the fill to none, and then change the stroke cap type to rounded. This will round off the ends. And then of course we can thicken that up. And we're going to start with a very chunky stroke, but then we're going to use the very appropriately named width tool to adjust the width. So what I'm going to do is hover over this end and then click and drag until this tapers off to a finer point. And we're not going super sharp. We're going to have a slight bit of roundedness to it. And you can see using this technique, our tash is perfectly smooth and it tapers off at a consistent rate. Whereas up here, the curves aren't particularly smooth. This area here is quite steep and then it wraps around to a point that is a bit too sharp. And also the tapering here, it's pretty steady at this point and then much more aggressive at the end. Whereas this one here, it gradually tapers off consistently until it gets to that last point. Right, now we need to select the stroke and we need to expand this so it's now a fill. And then we can go and grab the smooth tool or use the pencil tool and just refine this a bit more. So I'm going to use the pencil tool here to redraw this bottom part, just have it coming a bit lower. And of course I could go and refine this further, but you can see just by using the right tools and techniques, it makes this sort of thing so much easier. So let's make a copy, flip it horizontally and then connect them together. And we're going to have a slight bit of overlap here. And then if we get rid of the original, we now have our new tash. Right, let's just check that's a separate object. Yep, all good. So what we're going to do now is select everything and align it centrally. And if we zoom in, you can see that this does not look remotely central. And this is where we need to use something called optical alignment, and we have to rely on our eyeballs. Eyeballs indeed. So first of all, what I'm going to do is move the hat to the left and align that main part at the bottom of the hat with the tash. Like imagine there's someone's head there. It's going to have to sit centrally, right? Now what we're going to do is go and grab the line tool and draw a vertical line. So we're going to draw this down the middle of the tash. And because the eye on the word Asian and the word itself is actually relatively symmetrical and the dot on the eye is quite prominent, what I'm going to do is centrally align the eye to the center of the tash. And I'm doing this because these two elements are relatively close together. And of course I need to shift the word restaurant to line up with Asian. And you can see even though we've manually aligned things, if we zoom out, which is a way to identify alignment and kerning issues really easily, you can see for the most part, perhaps with a bit of tweaking, it now looks a lot more central. Now with everything selected, we have question marks for the fill and stroke, which is no good. If you get this, just double click the stroke, add any color, and then it will let you set it to none. And then for the fill, we're going to make sure we just have one color. So we're going to go with a nice charcoal blackish color. And let's just scale this up. Pop it in the center. There we go. And then I think if we go back to that first dartboard, this is the before and this is the after. And to make sure this is scalable and has a lot more flexibility, we're also going to do a more landscape-oriented version. And having a landscape version is perfect for something like a website's navigation. Like you try fitting that original logo in a website header. It just ain't going to happen. And if you want to learn how to design logos professionally, and honestly a lot more than that, I've got a link below to my pro designer mentorship. But anyway, you beautiful badger, take care, and I'll see you next time.